Hi everyone, this is Jaquez from dearcoders.com, and in this tutorial I will show you how to develop your own jQuery plugin. At the end of this tutorial we should be able to achieve this kind of product. So we will be able to create a modal window, a simple modal window that after clicking somewhere, after performing any action, the user will be able to see like an overlay over the page and showing like a white modal window at the top of everything, like showing kind of like a message with a close button that as soon as you click it, it makes the modal go away. In order to develop this, I will use Visual Studio. So I'm going to start here with a brand new project. So I'll go File, New Project. I'm going to create this as a web project so that I can leverage some of the templates and files that it generates for me. So I'm going to select the web. I'm going to make it an ASP.NET web application, and I'm going to call it sample overlay. It just generates a few files for me, but I'm not going to use those. I'm just going to delete a few of them, and I'm going to start from scratch so that I can show you how to do it the quickest, the simplest way. So as you can see, it generates some files for me, but there are some of those that I'm not going to use, so I'd rather like start from scratch. I'm going to delete the about and default pages that it generates for me, these web forms. So I'm going to delete these, and I'm going to create just a brand new one, add new item. I'm going to create a new web form. I'm going to call it index. Okay, I'm going to make this the start page, and right away I can tell you what are the steps that you need to do. So the first thing that you want to do is of course you need to make sure that you have the jQuery core library imported into your page. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drag the jQuery 1.4.1 library. So I'm going to bring it over. I have it right here. At the creation of this tutorial, the jQuery library should be at a high level. Its version should be high, probably like around 1.8 in terms of the jQuery UI, and jQuery probably like 1.6, so or 1.7. So you should be able to, at least from 1.4 and on, you should be able to work with this tutorial. Okay, so then once you have the jQuery core library loaded in onto your page, then now the next thing to do is to create your library. In this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a folder in which I'm going to provide certain folders that you will be able to distribute. And let's say if you want to give it to your friends or provide it out there online so that people can use it. So what you can do is actually you can create a folder. In this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say add new folder. I'm going to create a folder. My plugin is going to be like a modal box, so I'm going to call it dearcoders.modalbox. Inside this folder, I'm going to create another one in which I'm going to place my CSS files, and another one in which I'm going to place my images. So I'm going to provide you with some CSS that you will already be able to leverage by just bringing the control, and some images that you will be able to use. For example, again, in the example, when you click on the modal, you will have 3 images. One that will represent the top border of this modal window, another image that will be the repeated image that will grow as much content as it has inside. It will grow lengthwise, like from top to bottom. You will just see it grow, like in terms of the whatever text you put in here. And then the other image represents the bottom image, and then that way you have like your whole modal window. It will just grow from top to bottom, because sideways, let's say, it will have like a fixed size. So again, I have like some images here. Maybe I can show them to you. The one that represents the overlay, which is the dark background, like faded background, is just actually a 10 by 10 PNG image with a opacity of like 50%. Then I have, again, like I said, the bottom part of the window, the close button, and the repeated image that will be part of the body, the repeated background, and the top top image of the window. So these 3 images, I'm gonna bring these 5 images, I'm gonna drag them into my project over here. I'm gonna bring in some CSS, or actually I can just create it right now. So I can say add new item. I'm gonna create a style sheet. I'm gonna call it dearcoders.overlay.cs. So within this CSS, I'm just gonna copy and paste I'm gonna copy and paste some CSS file just for the sake of speed, and again I can just go over real quick so that you can see what I'm doing. So I have the CSS for the top image, the repeat image, bottom image, and the close image. I need to make sure that the close image has the cursor pointer is actually placed at the floated right, so that it shows at the top right corner of my modal window. The DR coders overlay by default will be display none, so that it won't show. The overlay, the actual overlay, is actually going to be a position absolute, so that it shows on top, and I can change the Z index of the, wherever I want to show it. So I want to show it actually like on top of everything. If I just don't apply any C index, I'm just going to put it on top of everything. And again, like try to put like the message box, which is the one that contains everything. I can show you maybe the layout that I'm going to use for that. So I'm going to use a div for the overlay, the div that contains the message box, which is this whole thing, and I'm going to have 3 divs. One for the top image. Within this div, I'm going to have the close image. I'm going to have the repeated image, where I'm going to display all my text, and the bottom image, where I'm just going to display the bottom of the image. I just don't need this. I'll just don't save it. So, but at least this is what I'm going to use. So that you can see. Going back to the index, this is where I'm going to show, where I'm going to display my information. For example, in this case, I'm just going to put something like, just some text, so that I can see where like the page is and where everything will be loaded. So I'll say this is the content of the page, and I'm just going to put like a button here, put a break line, input type, button, value, I'm going to call a click here, and I'm going to use an ID so I can refer to it when I click on it. So click modal, and maybe like in the on click event of this button, I'm going to activate I'm going to execute my code. So the next thing, after I have the CSS in place that will just generate all this, and my images that I'm going to use, so I'm going to create my JS file. The convention again to create jQuery plugins is actually like this. So I'll create a new item, I'll make it into a JavaScript file, so it's going to be a JS file. The convention is called jQuery. The prefix will be jQuery dot the name of your plugin, coders dot modal. You can say optionally, you can say dot, it will be the name of the version of the file, or the latest version. In this case, this is optional. I'm not going to use it, but you need to make it .js. So that is the convention for the naming. So as soon as you add this, I have my jQuery, the coders.modal.js, which I'm going to be able to use it as a plugin for providing it out there, people to use it, people to download it in their pages, people to use it in their pages. So how do I create this? The beginning of creating the plugin needs to be this. So you have to say function. You have to begin again. Let me show you again. So you have to begin with a parentheses, say function $, open and closing parentheses, close parentheses, open parentheses, jQuery. What does this mean? This means that this function, or what we're going to create as part of the jQuery plugin, is actually a utility function, which will be a property of the jQuery object. It's not going to be a wrapper method, which you use by extending or providing a property to the jQuery.fn or jQuery.function, which is a wrapper method. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to create a property of the jQuery object. How? By this, we're ensuring that the $sign retains its original value. By creating this type of function, you're ensuring that the meaning of, or the value of the $sign is the jQuery object. For example, if anyone who uses your plugin assigns another reference to the $sign, this ensures that the $sign regains its true value, which is the jQuery object. So what we do, in this case, then what I would do is I will create a utility function by saying $, dot, and then you provide your own property. In this case, I'm going to call it coders modal box, which will hold a reference to a function that the users of my plugin will execute. So Then you have, let's say, this is the building block of what we're going to create when we create our jQuery plugin. After this, I can just come over here back to my index and drag this jQuery file, or this my newly created extension. So how do I refer to this within my code? Well, very simple. So you create script type text slash JavaScript, and from here, from the document.ready function, you can refer to this utility function that you just created by saying $dot dear coders modal box. Like you could say is right available in IntelliSense. So you could say dear coders modal box, and then you say open parentheses, and there you go. So right now you're actually executing your jQuery plugin. But wait, right now we have not provided anything. This file is empty. It's just going to execute a function, but nothing is there. How do you actually make it usable, and how you provide information to your plugin? Very simple. You pass an object of type of format, like in JSON format, which is actually the following format. You open and close a curly braces, and that's exactly how you pass an object of type JSON. I'm gonna create my own variables. In this case, I'm gonna make up, like, I'm just gonna come up with a few variables. One will be like HTML content, which I will use to provide any type of content so that it will be displayed within my modal window. And another one called modal callback, which will hold a reference to a method that I want to execute when I close my window. So after I provide any values to these to this object, it will be passed with as the parameter of this method within here. So what do I need here? I need to expect an object that has those two properties, the properties HTML content and HTML content and modal callback. So coming back over here, I have to pass an object, any type of object. I'm going to call it settings. This settings, then let's say if I say settings dot whatever, you won't be able to see the values over here, because that's going to happen like at runtime. I'm going to assign those properties to this object, to this JSON type object, and consume them on the other end. So what am I going to do? For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to just copy a few lines of code over here, which I'm going to explain right now. So content will actually hold whatever you assign to this variable HTML content. You can pass any type of content. You can pass some HTML, you can just pass some text, and you'll be able to display it inside. Modal box callback will actually hold a reference to a method that will execute when when your window closes, for example, if you want to do that. So what do? I refer to the dear coders overlay. Again, I can show you the structure. The structure again was a whole div containing the overlay and a div containing the whole a box. So let's say if I have an ID of dear coders overlay, that means I'm gonna have a wrapper within this. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to create in my index, I'm going to add one div. So let's say your users will be required to add this div. So you add a div called dear coders overlay, which your plugin will be able to access. So after your plugin accesses this ID, it will inject this code. It will append it to it. So it will find the ID, append the code that actually forms and constructs the modal window. Then the message box content you're gonna append any text that you send to it. Close image. You're gonna bind the clicking functionality to it. So when I click it, the dear coders overlay will fade out. And after it fades out, I'm going to execute a function, which is what the fade out requires. And after I click the modal, like after I click on that. After I click on that a button, let's say if this ID called click modal, then I'm going to execute I'm going to fade it in, for example, in this case. This is a little bit of bad practice, because you're actually embedding within the functionality who's going to click it. In this case, I don't want that. So what you would want is actually maybe take this out. So why don't we try that? In the next tutorial, I'm going to continue and I'm going to conclude this series of tutorials of jQuery in how to create like your own plugins and your own components so that you can use them in your applications. So stay tuned for the next video.